Greetings and welcome to Paint Here Now. I am your host, Will Parody, and today we are working on part two of a three-part series that we're going to do where we're building up a sort of a surreal abstract landscape piece out of abstract composition and some circles rather than building a landscape with going to use this brush to make this grass or these clouds and sky and whatnot. We are just painting form, painting color, painting our feelings, so to speak, or how we're moved. Literally, painting is movement in space, and it's often how we're moved and how we move along a piece to find something, to find some interest that could turn into a bit of a landscape. And I think we have a decent enough foundation. I think it's pretty cool as an abstract piece, and I think that we have a pretty good foundation from which to work. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you some of the brushes we're going to use. Like this is a brush we used last time. We're going to use a few smaller ones this time as well. They're this size. We're going to add in some details and see what we can do. We're going to do another lesson on this, or I should say another addition to the piece on Friday and wrap it up, but I think we're going to put in some nice details today too. So we'll just see what happens. Here's our palette. We have orange, we have green, we have purple. Those are our secondary colors, which are made by mixing the primary colors of yellow, blue, and red. Red, yellow, and blue, as the case may be. We've got some fluorescence in here, little fluorescent pink and whatnot, because I like to add a little fluorescent to my regular paints. It helps to make a bolder color, I think. If I want a lighter green, adding a nice bright fluorescent yellow to that green would certainly bring a good highlight to it. So that's our basics for right now. And it's, of course, we have some white in there as well. We'll end up using plenty of white, I think. So let's just dive right in and get to painting. All right, so looking at this piece as it is, I have to decide where to start. Well, one of the things that I want to do is to bring out some areas that are already sort of bringing themselves out of, that could be a landscape element. And one thing that, there's a couple of things that pop out, but I think the first thing, certainly one thing that pops out to me right now, is this area in here. So I'm just going to make this, I don't know, a little bit more green, a little bit more of a feel, maybe bring some of these out as individual plants, and we'll just see what happens. But that's where I'm going to start anyways. I'm going to start with kind of a light green. You know what? I'm going to start with a lighter green than that. I'm going to take some of my fluorescent green, and I'm going to put it in the palette kind of like this. I'm going to add a little bit of this fluorescent yellow, and I'm going to mix those together. You can see that. I'm still right now using, I think, the same brush I used last time. I'm going to switch to a smaller size soon enough, but you can still see the detail you can get from the same size brush over strokes that you made last time with this brush. Right now I'm kind of adding some light to contrast, because one of the things that adding like light to dark or dark to light does is it opens up the piece. I don't want to say breaks it apart, but it starts to kind of dissipate it into larger elements. So I guess, for example, if I was using all similar tones and colors in here right now, finding this, all the exact, it would end up looking gray or muddy eventually, unless I was really specifically using brights and stuff. The more I added and added, it would. But if I wanted to bring out some particular quality in it or have it vibrate more with the whole piece, I could start adding some contrast. So much about painting and what you do in a painting is about the eye. The eye, how the eye reacts to the moment and how the eye reacts after the moment. Because there's generally one eye, or the eye of eminence, I should say, in a painting is the eye that's holding the brush, or the pen or the pencil or the guitar, or whatever the case may be. And then the eyes become many, depending on how many people see it and can interact with it. But as I'm painting, I realize that there's things happening with my eye that lead me to where I'm going. It's not about what I think this should look like or how I feel it needs to be or what it's comparing it to something else. Where's my eye leading me? Based on the colors, these dark to light, you know, this rhythm, this pulse. Where is it leading me? So one of the things that I remember I wanted to establish, and I'm looking to see if I still can, is this is coming up further than maybe this area. So we're going to take some steps to do that. So one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm just adding a little bit of straight fluorescent yellow paint. And again, it's not like this is the natural color of a hill. It doesn't have to be. This is about something more than imitating our visual perception of nature at a particular moment. This is about creating a space, creating a little universe, a little, like Bob Ross used to say, and it's true to a degree what he was talking about in his pieces and making a universe out of these paintings. And this is one that can change. This is one because it's not saying this has to be a tree or this has to be this. That's one of the things a lot of the Impressionists and Post-Impressionists got is there's a rhythm in the microcosm of what's happening here. You could take a little cut out of one of these and it could be an abstract painting or whatnot, not just a puzzle piece for a larger image that you have in your mind or that you expect to see. And so adding some bright color like that on it as a way to bring this out, to say, hey, I'm going to stick out right here. And then you can add I'm going to add the other stuff and add some detailing and bring it back if I need to later. But now it's like, here I am. There it is. So I like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of the non-fluorescent yellow. I'm going to come over here because I want to establish their similarity and connection, but not to top this to copy this in the way it sticks out. I am going to take a little fluorescent because they're not that far away, but not tons. And just in some areas where I think it might be lighter. Now, of course, this really pops out in here because there's that white and that yellow. There's a really interesting contrast with how close there. It really brings this boldness out. Because this now doesn't have to compete with these other stronger colors. It's like, oh, there's nothing but white here. Oh, boom, I'm going to pop. And look how it does. See, these little moments are what matter in painting, and it's so neat to be able to share them with you. So, and I hope you continue to discover them on your own. Going to add a little bit of some green. That's a little darker than I want, so I'm going to take some of that dark and mix it in. And just kind of bring in some, again, there's a lot more white on this side too, so I want, sometimes I'd be like, oh, I gotta fill in the white. It's not really about that, but it's okay to do that too, to be like, little white spot, well, white spot. And you'll find, and I like the way that's working here, especially because this is more in the distance. It's creating a nice blend. It's creating a nice sense of depth in the piece as it mixes the colors in. Connects everything a little bit. It's not like now I have to blend it perfect. Nope, still adding the same kinds of strokes and circles. Even in here, I'm going to add a little light to this. I need a little bit more. What's going to happen there? I'm not even sure yet. I don't even know if this blue is going to come through yet. I'm not sure yet. So we're just going to have to see. Since I have blue on my brush, and a little here, but more into here. A little blue and blue-green, which is okay. Notice how I didn't clean my brush. That's all right in this case. Now I'm going to clean it a little bit, and the reason is because I wanted to spread a little bit of this color I've been doing up in here. Part of what I find really helpful in making a painting continuous or connect, even in abstraction, whatever kind of painting you're doing, is to be incorporating some of the colors and forms that you use throughout the piece, or in certain parts of the piece throughout the piece. So this these blues, this green coming up in here and mixing with the blue is a continuity, and there's a niceness to it, and it will fit in well with our continued sky. It also adds a lot more colors and a lot more elements of blue to make a larger hue, which is a good thing to do. Oh, hey, that rhymed too. Okay, so cleaning the brush, we're just going to hit the bottom a little bit. Scrape a little like that, and then boom, on the shirt. I don't know if you can see that. You can use your shirt if you want to. You can use a cloth napkin or something like that. You know, I don't necessarily recommend paper towels unless you sort of have them to use or reuse stuff, you know, because it just tends to be wasteful. But one of the reasons I use the clothing, it's so convenient, it's there, and that they can get a little thick sometimes. So anyways, let's continue here. Now that I got a cleaner brush, I'm going to add a little bit of this fluorescent blue, which is going to be darker than the blue I've been using. And I'm going to start making, rather than these big circles like I was making before, I'm sort of going to almost outline them, but more like find areas where they can arc around. Small little, oops, I'm getting a little distant, small little areas. And that adds some nice little dynamic movement to the piece, connects the blues. No, 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 connect the blues. For those of you who may have got that as a Pee-wee's Playhouse reference, that was awful. So, yeah, let that go from your mind. Anyways, let's, terribly done. Let's get back to this, which is not as terribly done. Adding a few little circles here and there. Now what I'm going to do, see, those are nice. Actually, there's a couple more I want to, in here maybe. It's getting a little tight, but just, I'm feeling that's pretty okay for now. The more you make, the more you want to see them, you know, and, oh, where else do they need to go? But I feel we're doing pretty good. I bring a little bit down in here just for that continuity factor, and it's nice. And just now that there's not much paint left, just to keep a little flow going with that larger circle thing that we've got here. Do you see this? Now with these circles we've made in this connection to this, we almost have a bit of a circle, not a perfect circle, but a circular form. And that will bring the eye in, and then you've got this focus. So not only do we have this landscape that we're looking at, not only do we have these elements that we can bring out to make it look like a landscape in this piece, not only do we have all of these different dots and lines moving around to get the eye moving and ooh, and the head kind of moving. It's cool, like music, it's like jazz almost. Not only do we have that, but now we have these in the larger form of these little spots we've been making. We have these other larger forms, these ways in which the eye can connect in and come to the piece. These larger circles, these other things that, these compositional elements that draw you in, that are essentially, I keep repeating myself, but it's like, but they're these other forms. Use these circles to make a bigger circle and that kind of thing. And they come out almost automatically when you start painting this way. So I like that there. It's not over pronounced. So I'm adding a little bit of white in here. And I'm just kind of going with it and seeing what happens. Now I like the white in here, so this definitely brings something out in here. It makes it a little bit more rapid river perhaps, you know, little foam waves and stuff, or real strong reflection. Maybe if it's that strong of a reflection, is it flat? No, because then we would see the trees. But like wavy reflection, it makes it, you know, so it could be something. But there's action now in the water, if this is indeed water, and I think it is at this point. Whatever it is it coming down? Maybe it will, but maybe we'll give the hint that it's going to come through. Then we've got this still coming up to, again, establish maybe a depth with this. Add just a little bit of this fluorescent yellow. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll paint these ideas in. And I don't want to do this just, oh, I need to make this thing, because I want to keep the continuity going with my count and my rhythm. But sometimes I will cover, I will do these things. I'll add ideas like that doesn't really work, and I'll end up working it in, and you'll hardly even see the original idea, and that's okay. So there's something there, maybe. Kind of neat looking. So we'll leave that for now and just kind of let that be. We've got a little bit of work going here. Now, I don't want to spend too much time today on this because I want to, keep these a little bit on the shorter side and then bring them together. I mean, which is to say I could paint for hours on this piece if I wanted to and just keep going and going and it'll get all thick. But I want this to be a piece that establishes itself in a slightly shorter amount of time than that. We're going to do some longer ones, but I think this is a good place to start. So, adding in with this brush. Again, this is a nice brush. It's got a decent edge. I've got some with better edges, though. It's not the best edge. But just establishing a little bit of contrast and or shadow. Even in here a little bit, not to dominate. Remember, this is kind of more up front. Just to add some stuff, especially as gets more in the front here. What do we got going on with these kinds of things here? So right now I'm going to have some fun. See these shapes that I already saw here? Well, look at that. By a few little marks, I have established something that could very well be tree or tree life coming in. We're going to stick with that theme. Gosh, these could be little cabins and stuff. I'm not going to move that yet. You see the life, though, in this? Little mushroom people dancing around, or like this potential, the potential for those types of things and that imagination to work in a piece that's made abstractly, that has these circles and forms and lets the imagination work, rather than being an emulation or a contrivance of a specific idea that has to be a certain way. If you can allow yourself the freedom to find things, you'll be able to create so many different universes. If you're the type of person that wants to bring out the little people, or this has a little mushroom house, and little mushroom fairies, then you can do that. Maybe we'll do some lessons on that down the road. This I'm going to keep a little more on this, keeping it where we're going here, this landscape kind of thing. It's a little more simple, I guess. The imagination, though, is yours to tap into. It's ours to tap into. Imagination, I don't think, is like art, really. It's not something that you find within you. It's like you connect to it. It's an outer energy. And you have a very distinct connection to that with the self and with this, the fact that we are individualized entities. But I think it's a larger force that somehow we can all tap into. So again, I'm just establishing these things that could be these cool kinds of trees, a little bit different. And because we are creating a landscape from our imagination, we do not have to make it look like a fir or an oak or an alder with this and these exact rules of shadow and form. No, we're having some fun. We want it to be fluid and look alive. Maybe it's not just a tree. That's the fun thing about abstract painting and painting in this type of dynamic, is it can become so many different things. I think as an artist, finding your own path in it, your own intent that you really feel will serve for whatever you think will serve the best, and then, the piece the best, I think is really a way to go. Anyways, adding these marks. Now I'm feeling like I'm doing a little much. So one thing I'm going to do is, look at this. I'm just going to start adding a little orange in here, because I started to feel this was getting a little bit duller. It was as nice as the green is. I don't know why the Mario voice. Mario pops up from time to time. The Mamma Mia. Where's Luigi? Let's go down the pipe. I don't even know. So here we go. Anyways. So, all right. So we added some orange. We're going to add, and the reason we added some orange is because there was some contrast needed, I think. I didn't want to go jump super bold with a big dark. It needed a little more warmth. And now we've got it, and some nice bright warmth. It establishes it can be any number of things if we want to turn this into something a little bit more realistic or recognizable. But right now, I really like it for the contrast. Maybe it will affect how we have a time of day, because orange is all, often reflected from Maybe this is going to turn into some kind of a, well, let's see. I don't know yet. But perhaps this might turn into some kind of a dusk piece. I mean, you know, there's this whole thing here I've been wondering what to do with. When we just get dusk, then the sky does reflect more in the water. You start seeing yellow and orange and stuff in the water. See, that's pretty cool. So maybe we'll go with this for a little bit. It certainly kind of looks neat. Gives it a little bit more character. So if that's the case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a kind of a, you know what? I'm going to clean my brush out a little bit more first. I'm going to add some orange. Maybe it's the sun itself. Maybe it's just the way that we're going to find the sunset color. And I'm going to take a little bit of fluorescent yellow. See how that really pops that out. Oh, that's cool. Add a little bit more orange, honestly. I'm going to use my fingers because I kind of like to, and just kind of thin it out. And then you can see what was underneath. Brings out its own color and form. I like that. Bring out a little bit more. Just rather than it being flat, why not just this little bit of texture. Interesting. I like that. We're going to see what happens. Of course, that changes the sky a little, so we're going to add a little bit of orange into the sky. Orange in the sky. Yellow too. Just to highlight what might be a time of day and just bring some of this new orange in, a little bit more in the sky. And then what I'm going to do, while I still have a little orange or whatnot, yellow on my brush, I'm going to take just a little bit of white and just do a few little marks. Again, I don't want to do super big marks at this point because I want to bring out some detail. Just add a few marks. Just a little bit in here too, because there's some areas where I want to next time really bring in a little bit tighter. And I'm going to add a little bit of white in those areas, but still make it look cool and fit in, you know. Not just, oh, highlight. Hopefully it'll work. You know what? We're going to call this a good place to stop for right now to make this sort of a landscape. We're going to pop this out next time. Definitely. We'll be able to finish this next time. No matter how long it takes, but I don't think it'll take long. I think it'll work all right. So, very cool. Well, there you have it. We did a nice little layer here for part 2. And I think that we will be able to find a nice finished piece out of this here painting on Friday. We're going to put on the third and final layer, bring up some of the details, maybe some of these kind of trees. And again, we're doing a playful, abstract, landscape kind of a piece here, just to see what we can do with color and form and just making circles and finding these connections and really having fun with the painting process. And then still trying to, as we bring up these, because, you know, if you have this intent or this landscape, it can come up, it'll happen organically. And I think we found some neat elements, some areas that are up in front of others and the continuity. So it'll be fun to continue this and keep on painting. In the meantime, please stay creative, keep making art, find love in your life and share it with others. It's so important now more than ever. And if you're watching this video 200 years from now, it's just as relevant now more than ever. So thank you all very much for keep loving, painting, making art, and for your ear and your time.